a meeting of the Bronx Borough Board will take place this morning, Monday, February 26th, starting at 10:10, and it'll be held at 851 Grand Concourse, Bronx, New York, room 711. Just a reminder to you all, this is being live streamed via BronxNet. Once again, good morning, happy Monday. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this morning. We will begin with roll call so that everyone could identify themselves. So, first up, we're going to start with community boards. Community Board 1.
Here, DeLorne Moran.
Community Board 2. Community Board 3. Community Board 4. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Community Board 5. Community Board 6. Community Board 7.
Here, Stephen.
Community Board 8.
I'm Rosemary Ginty, representing Julie Reyes, who unfortunately was unable to attend.
Good morning, thank you for being here. Community Board 9. Community Board 10. Community Board 11. And Community Board 12.
Good morning, Chair Richard Carter.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. Moving on to City Council members and representatives. District 8, Council Member Diana Ayala. District 11, Council Member Eric Dinowitz.
Good morning, Stephanie Martinez, representing Councilmember Dinwiddie.
District 12, Council Member Kevin Riley. Good morning. District 13, Council Member Christy Mamorato. District 14, Council Member Pierina Sanchez. District 15, Council Member Oswald Feliz. District 16, Council Member Althea Stevens. District 17, Council Member Rafael Salamanca. District 18, Council Member Amanda Farias. Thank you. At this moment, I just want to recognize city agencies that are present. I believe DEP as a presenter and the state. Anyone else? Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you all for being here this morning. Again, we have a lengthy but a very robust agenda, and I want to share that. This is what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. I want to share that that after the closing of today's Borough Board, we will be hosting our mayor's preliminary budget hearing for fiscal year 2025. And I urge you all to remain to hear from our organizations on what their specific needs are. So the first item on the agenda, we have Acting Commissioner Suzanne Miles Gustav from the New York State Office of Children's and Family Services, who will be presenting the New York State Executive Budget for fiscal year 2025 on behalf of our New York State Governor, Kathy Hochul. This year, the governor has been committed to hosting a series of these presentations under the State Budget Roadshows through the state of New York, and has prioritized this Bronx Borough Board meeting as part of her series. With that, I want to hand it over to Commissioner Miles Gustav. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
No chairs. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I think I'm doing my own clicking as well. Let's see where we begin. So, my hope is that if I put my book here, I will not click a button. Let's see. Okay. Good morning. To the Bronx Borough President, Vanessa Gibson's office and her staff, thank you so much. The distinguished chairs of community boards, the honorable city council members, district managers, and Bronx residents in attendance. I, again, Suzanne Miles Gustav, acting commissioner for OCFS. And I appreciate this opportunity really to present Governor Hochul's fiscal year 2025 executive budget. Today you'll hear about some of the major spending highlights included in the budget, designed to improve the future for all New York residents. This executive budget is one that really enhances my agency's mission, so I really appreciate the investments here to really protect and strengthen all of New York's children, youth, families, and communities, a commitment I know that you all share. So we'll get started. As you can see here, the full investment of New York State in this year's fiscal 2025 budget is $233 billion. So under Governor Hochul's leadership, the state of New York is stronger, healthier, and safer than it was 2 years ago when she became governor, but she knows that much work is to be done. New York is our future, and we think the future is really bright. But the key themes in this year's budget are really indicative of a common sense vision for New York. So it involves no new taxes, and it maintains a 15% operating reserve, which we'll talk about a little later. And as indicated by the slide, our spending for this year is proposed to reach $233 billion. So speaking of reserves, as you can see from our chart here, our state financial reserves stand at the highest level in the state's history. It's really 16% of our state spending. So on the slide, you can see that's a significant increase from just 3 years ago. I'm sure you all recognize coming out of COVID, our reserves were quite low, but it's been a priority of the governor's office to make sure that we continue to responsibly budget so that we can increase our reserves for the next incident, if need be. And so some of her priorities for this year, as you may have heard in her third State of the State, the governor announced key investments to make New York, again, safer, more affordable, and more livable. And she focused on really 3 core areas, which are among these priorities. First, making New York safer, but really cracking down on some specific crimes, giving prosecutors new tools to handle domestic violence incidents, and really expanding enforcement on the cannabis law. The second main component is really addressing the mental health crisis, focusing on youth mental health and serious mental illness. She's proposing to establish school-based mental health clinics for everyone who wants to create one in their school building, and really reforming the behavioral health system. So some of those priorities indicate that summary. And in the next slide, you'll see the third core value really is increasing affordability by building thousands of new housing units in New York City, expanding consumer protection laws, and ending copays for insulin on all state-regulated insurance plans, and banning certain medical debt lawsuits. So really focusing on that New York is safer, more affordable, focusing on mental health, and working on investing in our infrastructure. And as relevant to my agency, Children and Family Services. So this year's executive budget really maintains the critical investments in OCFS's core child care, child welfare, adult services, and juvenile justice programs. Really, that makes our work possible to deliver the programs and services that New Yorkers really depend on. Primary in our investment is childcare. As you know, we focused on childcare more than ever in the past several years. So under Governor Hochul's steadfast leadership, investments in childcare have grown to record levels. And New York is now a national leader in expanding access to childcare for families and making it more affordable. Some of those investments, this year we're continuing the state's more than $7 billion over 4-year investment to expand access to childcare and improve affordability for young families. This fiscal year 2025 budget provides nearly $1.8 billion in resources toward childcare assistance. That's more than double the $832 million provided in the fiscal 2022 budget when the governor took office. The state's also investing in $4.8 million in new employee-sponsored childcare pilot programs. So in this instance, we're looking to get the private sector more involved. So in our pilot, the participating employers, the state, and employees can split costs 3 ways to help reduce that burden on families. And to qualify, families must fall within between 85% and 100% SMI. So that's a program for those who aren't technically eligible for childcare assistance. And then finally, we're also piloting a family childcare network in regions across the state that focuses on supporting and growing the capacity of family and group family childcare. And then finally, consolidating and bolstering our after-school programming and to reduce the administrative burden on some of those providers. You may know that we've previously had our Empire and Advantage after-school programs, both statutorily required. We've then proposed to combine those, and our RFP for the new program is actually out right now. It's the LEAP program, and it's $100 million focused on after-school programming. That's a $17.7 million increase from last year. And child welfare. So in our work here at OCFS, we have pledged that every program, policy, or initiative funded by the executive budget will further transform our human services system into one that is far more responsive and less reactive to the needs of what are oftentimes under-resourced and vulnerable New York families and communities. So this year's budget increases from $4.4 million to over $10 million to raise the minimum wage of employee state-sponsored contracts. And for a third year in a row, the budget includes funding for Human Services COLA. And so while the previous 4 governors routinely blocked the COLA in the budget, the governor has included an increase in all 3 budgets she's proposed since coming into office. And then OCFS also really applauds the governor for focusing on addressing the infant and maternal health crisis. So in addition to increasing access to prenatal care, doula services, and some maternal mental health services, the budget also proposes to earmark about $2 million to focus on reducing sudden and unexpected infant deaths by focusing on safe sleep initiatives, and that funding will go towards portable cribs for any family who is in need. And for juvenile justice, so I think we know critical to improving outcomes for our young people and strengthening local communities is really ensuring that there are effective interventions for youth who are at risk of doing harm. So as part of the governor's budget and her comprehensive strategy to really make New York safer, this budget includes an additional $3 million to increase funding to enhance our supervision and treatment services for juvenile programs, or as we call it, STSJP. Since STSJP began in 2011, it's really been a key component of New York's vision to transform youth justice by incentivizing local programs intended to divert at-risk youth from placement in detention or residential care. So that increase then brings the STSJP program to a historic high of $11.4 million. So mental health. We all know that's, again, one of the governor's main primary focuses. And we know mental health does not discriminate. Decades of disinvestment in our mental health system have really devastating effects on the city. And as a result, too many vulnerable New Yorkers are slipping through the cracks. So with our State of the State proposals, Governor Hochul will ensure that communities and individuals facing serious mental health illnesses have access to resources to support their well-being. That includes really establishing a law enforcement and mental health coordinating team and funding crisis intervention training for law enforcement. These trainings have shown to support better outcomes when law enforcement respond to individuals with mental health crisis. Also intending to improve the mental health admission and discharge procedures for hospitals, funding mental health court expansion and court-based mental health specialists, and increasing transitional and specialized housing. So the executive budget reflects a significant commitment to the mental health spending. The state's investment is up over 45%, from $3.3 billion to $4.8 in this year's budget. That will include $55 million for new inpatient beds. The intention is to open 200 new psychiatric inpatient beds under a multi-year plan expansion. And also youth mental health services. So Governor Hochul knows that we need a comprehensive approach to youth mental health and to help children who are hurting right now. So after convening the first ever Youth Mental Health Conference in New York City in 2023, the Governor Hochul is recommitting to her efforts to help struggling kids and teenagers by doing a few things. So this, again, is historic investment to ensure mental health services are available in every school that wants a mental health clinic, establishing new Youth Act teams statewide to enable young people struggling with mental illness to really stay in their homes and their school communities while receiving treatment in the community. And then pushing for legislation to hold social media companies accountable, something we heard loud and clear from the youth at that conference. And then expanding loan repayment programs for children's mental health practitioners to really increase capacity for that workforce. Then we have healthcare. So Governor Hochul believes that every New Yorker deserves access to high-quality, affordable healthcare. And our fiscal 2025 executive budget reflects her commitment to improving the health and well-being of every New Yorker by increasing healthcare affordability and access, while building on the historic healthcare investments made over the last 2 years. So through a series of cost-effective and innovative initiatives, the budget seeks to really continue modernization of the healthcare industry and address the challenges facing our healthcare system and our workforce. And so I think between our Department of Health and our executive chamber partnering and working with the federal government, we've secured additional funding from the federal government. So we've received approval on a groundbreaking Medicaid 1115 waiver, an amendment, and as part of this waiver, New York will significantly expand coverage for health-related social needs for Medicaid beneficiaries. So those social needs are focused on the social determinants of health, and so this new waiver, really historic in its funding and purpose, will assist in providing support and investment for those determinants. So between $6 billion in federal funds and $1.5 billion in state funds, this partnership secured a combined $7.5 billion over 3 years. So as approved in the Medicaid 1115 waiver amendment, 8 hospitals in New York City will also receive a total of $487 million annually to sustain critical safety net investments. And then we have the overall opioid epidemic. So the governor's healthcare agenda continues to aggressively impact and combat the opioid crisis and support individuals struggling with addiction. So $67 million has been secured from the opioid settlement fund that will support harm reduction, prevention, and recovery services. And then education. So we know the executive budget reflects Governor Hochul's commitment to education, supporting students, teachers, and schools with essential resources for all students. And since taking office, Governor Hochul has increased school funding by a record amount. So the increase in this year's budget is $825 million. So the fiscal 2025 budget increases the aid by that amount, bringing the total investment to $35 billion. This is, again, the highest ever investment in the education in the state's history. And the governor's education proposal also includes a 4-year extension of mayoral control over New York City public schools. And so as you can, oh, did I pass the, nope, there we go. Another component of the governor's education investment is, again, a back to basics reading plan, which you may have heard in her State of the State proposal. This incorporates evidence-based instructional practices, and this really changed the way New York's children learn to read, bringing the state's curriculum in line with national accepted best practices. New York students have fallen behind in basic reading and writing proficiency, which has only been exacerbated by the pandemic. We know that students who do not achieve proficiency by the end of the 3rd grade are 4 times more likely to drop out of school, which dropout rates even more pronounced for students of color and students in low-income communities. So the focus on reading and literacy is critical this year. Economic development. So the fiscal year 2025 executive budget will continue to invest in New York's economic recovery, the promotion of job creation, job retention, workforce development, and the revitalization of every region in the state. The executive budget proposes investments in key capital projects, emerging and high-impact industries, and regionally balanced developmental strategies. So you also may have heard in the Governor's State of the State, we are focused on AI and looking to really ethically and responsibly incorporate it into government practice, and the state will now invest a total of $275 million for the Empire AI initiative. There'll also be a separate $500 million investment in capital resources to establish the Capital Region as the international headquarters of advanced chip research and technology, and then a $200 million investment to support the launch of One Network for Regional Advanced Manufacturing Partnerships, which is on-ramp, really to establish 4 new workforce development centers in strategic high-impact locations in New York. Transportation and infrastructure, the governor announced next steps to plan and engineer expanded transit access across New York City, introduced a new infrastructure hub, and proposed new measures to improve roadway safety and fight toll and fare evasion. The governor's budget provides nearly $7.9 billion in planned funding for the 3rd year of a record $32.9 billion investment. 5-year DOT capital plan, which is inclusive of 5.4% increase in upstate and non-MTA downstate transit systems. Again, relevant to New York City, transportation, we have some investments towards the CHIP Local Highway Aid Program, the Pave New York Local Highway, Extreme Winter Recovery, and Pave Our Potholes Program. The Interborough Express, so the governor's budget also includes funding to advance transformative projects to further expand the MTA's transit system, including $45 million for the Interborough Express project. And there's continued investment in the Second Avenue subway expansion. The budget includes $16 million in funding for design costs associated with the Second Avenue subway expansion. And in addition, the MTA will expand the existing local hiring pilot on the Second Avenue subway Phase 2 project, bringing new jobs to East Harlem. And the most important slide, really, Bronx improvements. The Bronx stands to benefit from improvement projects aimed to enhance state parks and educational and environmental projects. So the budget provides $200 million for improving our state parks, and the Roberto Clemente State Park will receive $2.25 million of this funding will support critical infrastructure projects throughout the park system. And the executive budget also includes $17 million for zoos, botanical gardens, and aquaria across the state. And one of the recipients is the New York Botanical Garden. The investment in the Botanical Garden is part of an ongoing effort to increase energy efficiency, restore structural integrity, and really augment the conservatory's landmark status as a tourist attraction. Critical housing investments. So I'm sure you are aware, Governor Hochul proposed housing investments in last year's budget. She knows that the urgency of our housing crisis demands immediate action. Can only be solved with increased supply. So she's going to start the next phase of our housing project and agenda by giving New York City the tools it needs to construct more housing. The budget creates a $500 million, split over 2 years, dedicated capital fund to facilitate development of housing on state property, makes the pro-housing designation a requirement for municipalities to receive part of the $650 million pool of discretionary funding, and it includes legislation to provide New York City with tools necessary to increase housing. Now, as part of the New York City Housing Rescue Plan, Governor Hochul will propose legislation to do a few things. That's restore the tax incentive to build housing that includes affordable housing, eliminate restrictions on residential density that prevents the city from building more housing, and advance common sense ideas like the conversion of underutilized commercial property into homes, and legalizing existing basement apartments where New Yorkers already live. And now our investment to support the migrant crisis. So since asylum seekers first began arriving in New York in numbers, Governor Hochul has taken significant action to provide resources, support, and humanitarian aid. The executive budget provides an additional $2.4 billion to address this critical humanitarian crisis. With the $1.9 billion already included in the fiscal '24 financial plan, the state is providing a total of $4.3 billion. And this funding supports substantial resources to helping New York City manage the brunt and navigate this potential crippling crisis. So that funding will provide supports to migrants, including short-term shelter services, humanitarian emergency response and relief centers, and legal services to assist asylum seekers in applying for work authorization. And last but not least, swimming on a hot day is not just about recreation or creating joyful memories. It's about promoting the development of critical water safety skills in children and youth. So this wasn't always a reality for all of our children, especially in urban areas, due to accessibility. So we're looking to change that, and the governor is investing $160 million in the New York Swims initiative, which includes a few things: building out municipal pools in high-need areas, deploying pop-up above-ground pools in urban areas, partnering with New York City on floating, really a first-of-its-kind plus pool in the city waters. It's a filtered floating pool which sits in New York's rivers, and it's safe. It will also promote initiatives to help more New Yorkers swim safely by addressing statewide lifeguard shortages, increasing swimming instruction, and increasing amenities at pools and beaches. OCFS knows that drowning is the leading cause of death for children ages 1 to 4. We deal with it way too often. And without equitable and widespread access to safe swimming opportunities, fewer people will develop water safety skills, and more preventable drowning deaths will continue to occur each year. So before I close, I would just like to express my gratitude once again for the invitation to come here and present to you. Thank you for your attention. I know that the investments here will bolster our mission to provide truly equitable and impactful supports and services to New York families. And under Governor Hochul's leadership, New York is stronger, again, safer, and more affordable than it was when she arrived. So I think we have some time for questions. I thank you for your attention, and if I can answer those, I'm happy to do so. If not, we'll refer to our state office colleagues.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Commissioner Maus-Gustav, for such an informative presentation. We truly look forward to seeing how these investments can improve services and better outcomes for our residents. And once again, we're seeing historic increases. And so we applaud the governor for her commitment to not just the Bronx, but the entire state of New York. So thank you so much for the presentation. Opening it up for questions. Any questions? Yes.
Very thorough presentation. Thank you for your energy. Contagious.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is this information on a state website or something so that people in the community could take a look at it?
I'm not sure if this exact presentation is on there, but we'll talk to my friend here, Fidel, from the governor's office.
Excellent question. You can go to budget.ny.gov. Budget.ny.gov. You'll have all the line by line, all the details that you need to know for this year's budget.
Thank you.
And Maris will also share this PowerPoint presentation with the board. Any other questions? I know it's a lot, but we are very, very grateful for the presentation. And once again, we want to thank the governor and her entire team for prioritizing our Bronx Borough Board as part of her state budget roadshow. So thank you so much, Commissioner. Our next item on the agenda is a presentation from the Department of Environmental Protection, who will provide information on projected work that will be done on the city's water infrastructure, namely our water service pipeline. And so we have the Director of Strategic Planning for the Department of Environmental Protection, Tara Dagum, presenting this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for letting me present here today, and I'm so happy that you were able to squeeze me into this meeting. I wanted to make sure that all of you in this room were aware of a new program that we're launching very soon, and it's actually only going to be in the Bronx right now, so yay to the Bronx. As a Bronx resident, I'm very happy about that. So I'm going to start with the basics here. You guys may already know this, but just in case you don't, what is a water service line? A water service line is the pipe that connects the city's water main to your house and to your household plumbing. Full disclosure, I did not know that until I started working for DEP, so it's important that homeowners understand that that service line that brings them that clean drinking water, that is owned by them in its entirety, and they are responsible for repairing it, replacing it, maintaining it, treating it well, not throwing grease down your drain or garbage, because you are ultimately responsible for maintaining it and repairing it, which can be very expensive, which I will get to in a moment. So most water service lines nowadays, they're made of copper. We want them to be copper. It's not corrosive. It's a better metal. Some houses across the city still have lead service lines, which we don't want and we want to root out. These are primarily houses that are 1 to 3 family homes with smaller service lines, and they were built before 1961. New York City banned, or it might even be federal legislation that banned the use of lead service lines after 1961. So homes that are built before 1961, that are like 1 to 3 family homes, you might see some lead service lines still in existence. So New York City delivers its water virtually lead-free. We don't have any lead in our distribution system. We have some of the highest quality water in the world. We're very proud of it. We call it the champagne of drinking water. So that's why we don't want it to ever touch lead. Lead can be very corrosive, it can be brittle, and we don't want any particles breaking off into that clean, pristine drinking water. So we want to try to get that out as best as we can. And again, these are private service lines, so they're owned by the homeowner. They're not city property, but we're going to do everything we can to help private homeowners replace those. Something to know as well, we treat our water with something called orthophosphate, which is a food-grade additive similar to baking soda. What that does is it coats the pipe to prevent metals from leaching into your water. So we have a really robust treatment system. It's really good. We have a lot of redundancies in place. So for the most part, unless a service line is disturbed, you're not really going to find a lot of lead in your drinking water. We don't want any lead in our homes. We want to try to get those out. So I do strongly advise anybody with a lead service line to replace it. But I do want to balance out our messaging. I don't want people to be so fearful that there's lead in our drinking water too. The orthophosphate really does its job. And 99% of lead poisoning cases in New York City are traced back to lead paint. But regardless, this can have health implications for particularly young children and pregnant women. So also, if your lead service line, if you have a service line that's lead, it's well over 60 years old. It could be brittle. It's probably reached the end of its useful life, and you probably want to replace it. And this picture is just an example. It looks a little scary, but that usually is done in one day, and they will clean that up for you. But that's kind of an example of how you would replace a service line. So we've started a lead service line replacement program thanks to $24 million in funding provided through New York State through the federal bipartisan infrastructure law. And so this program is for eligible homeowners, and they're at no cost to the homeowner. So we've done pilot programs in the past, and I know homeowners are very reticent to get involved with the city, coming into their home, touching their property, and they're just not convinced that we will not charge them in the future. But I can tell you this is 100% free. You will not see anything on your water bill, you will not get a bill, and you will not have anything on your property taxes. So that's part of the reason I wanted to bring you all in as well, in case you get any questions of anybody that's skeptical. The program is free. And service lines, water service lines, sewer service lines are even more expensive, but water service lines can cost up to $8,000 to replace. So I will tell you too, as a Bronx homeowner myself, if someone came in and offered to replace my lead service line, I would jump at it. So I will vouch for it. So the eligibility requirements, there are a few things that we looked at to develop who is going to be in this first round of replacements. We looked at environmental justice areas, of areas that are historically disadvantaged and underserved. We looked at the median household income. Anybody who's making under $47,000 a year was eligible. And we looked at where we had the most dense concentrations of lead service lines to make it a little bit cost effective for our contractors. So as I said before, we have an eligibility requirements list. Only people that are eligible will be contacted by DEP for this program. People do not really even have to sign up. You can kind of just sit back, get your letter, sign a waiver, and if you want to take place in this program, you're in it. So these are the Bronx program areas. For right now, we're just doing the Bronx. We do have plans to branch out into the rest of the city, but for right now, this is what we're focusing on. And I did want to show you our contractor names as well, because DEP will be reaching out to homeowners, but contractors will as well. And again, I know some homeowners are very skeptical, and if they have a contractor reaching out to them, they think it's a scam. So I just wanted to make sure you kind of saw these contractors. I will also, I'm happy to pass this around, and you can look at the presentation afterwards, just to in case you get any questions on this. The program is actually relatively easy. Again, I think when people see this, it's a little jarring, but basically the contractor will come to someone's house who's eligible. they can sign a waiver saying that they'll go ahead with the program. If the service line, they're going to do a little bit of a test just to double confirm that it is lead. If it is confirmed that it's lead, they'll schedule a replacement time. Replacement takes 1 to 2 days on average. They'll dig maybe 1, 2, or 3 pits, one in the street, one on the sidewalk, and possibly one on the property, depending on where the house is situated. They will snake the new copper line through, they'll leave the lead line in place, and they'll reconnect your plumbing. You will not be without water for more than a few hours. So it actually is a relatively simple thing. I've seen it done myself. And like I said, if somebody offered me this opportunity, I would grab it. And then the final step is restoration. So what they'll do is they'll make the street safe, the sidewalk safe. If you have any grass on your property, they will fill that all in. And then they'll come back in another couple of weeks to just finish the job. So I wanted to make sure, we're up against a tight time frame, so I wanted to make sure that I got in on this meeting. We're going to be mailing letters to eligible homeowners probably by the end of the week. They should start receiving their letters next week. We're going to hit them about 4 or 5 times with notices. Then we're shooting to start replacements in April. And then this is just going to be an ongoing program. The goal is to replace every lead service line that's left in the city eventually. So we'll just keep going until we have no more left. So that's the gist of the program for people who are eligible. And just in case you have anybody out there who's not eligible, who might be a little bit nervous, there's a few other tools that we have for anybody that thinks they might have a lead service line. We do have a service line map. You can search it, and it's linked on our website, and our website page is nyc.gov/leadpipe. And you can go to that website, and you'll see all of the information. We have a whole service line map of the whole city. It will tell you what your service line is made of, so you can check that. It's important to flush plumbing. Even in older homes, I have a home that's over 100 years old. I flush my plumbing regularly because I don't necessarily know what's in my house. Even though our water is safe, I don't know what my plumbing is made of necessarily. So I highly recommend flushing, and I can give all of you that information too if anybody wants to give that to their residents. And then you can also call and ask for a residential test kit that is also free. So you can test your water yourself, mail it back to us, we'll do testing, and we will explain to you what we found in the water. And then something that also I like to push out to people, and again, I have this myself, I just recently used it because I had a grease blockage in my service line, and it was fantastic. So it's the American Water Resource Service Line Protection Program. It is minimal amount of money onto your water bill every month. I would highly recommend doing water and sewer. So that's something that protects you if you have any sort of repairs that you need to be made for any of your service lines. Also, if you have a lead service line and it needs to be repaired, the plumbing code now says that you cannot make repairs to a lead service line. You have to replace it in full. And as I said, it's very expensive. So if you have the insurance, should you need repairs or replacement in the future, it's helpful. So that's it for me. I tried to get through that quickly. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to take questions if you have time, but I can also, I'll give my contact information if anybody wants to talk further.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll open it up to questions.
Hi, good morning. I'm with Community Board 12, and I saw that it wasn't on the list. How is it determined which community board is more at risk, which district is more at risk than others?
I think it was primarily just environmental justice areas, and I don't know if CB12 is totally in that area. I've also looked at the map. I live in CB12, and I don't know if there's such a high concentration of lead service lines there. I saw in our first round, there might have been 2 or 3 lead service lines in Woodlawn as a whole. I'm not sure about Wakefield, but so I would have to look at that map, but it's primarily environmental justice areas, the income requirement, and then the high concentration of lead.
Thank you. I'm Ken Brown, the District Manager at Community Board 5. Will this replacement have any impact on the assessed value of a home? And if so, can that be insulated from an assessment?
I am not aware of that at all. We've gone back and forth because initially we had issues with, was this a gift? Were you going to have to pay this back in your taxes? There's actually a new legal decision, I think, that is now official, that this is not a gift. So my understanding is that this will not impact anything. I do think it's good for resale when people sell. If you can say, we have a brand new copper line that's brand new and you're not gonna have to put out $8,000 for it in the future, it's really good for resale, so. But I'll confirm that for you just to make sure.
Good morning, Robert Garment is Community Board 4. Can you go back to the borough map and try to explain it a little bit better? Because it was totally confusing to me.
Sure. So these are our, and I can't tell you why our contracting people did A, B, and E, I don't know. But, so I'm not really sure why that happened, but these were the areas where we sort of, because we have a limited amount of funds, we had to condense this down to certain areas that would get the most bang for our buck.
So the brick color, pink color, those are the ones that would be in effect?
Yeah, so the A area, that area, you can see it a little bit better on my map, I'm sorry, I think it's a little hard to see. So the A area, that is contract area A, that will be JR Cruise Corps group. Contract area B will be DeBow Contracting, and contract area E will be P&T Contracting. So those are where like the highest density concentrations of the lead service lines are.
Good afternoon. I'm Anthony Jordan, District Manager for Bronx Community Board 1, representing Port Morris, Mont Haven, and Melrose, which seems to be the highest population of it. How are you determining, or what documentation, I may have missed it in your presentation, on whether or not folks are eligible? I know you said that they have to make, I believe you said $40,000?
$47,000 or under for the median household income. And that was based on 2020 census data, and also looking at our water bills and if people are part of HEAP. That used to be the only criteria that we would decide if they were part of financial assistance programs with us, but we've branched out to a wider net.
And what contingencies do you have in place to ensure that contractors are completing the work and the timetable that you specified, and by choosing these contractors?
Yeah, so they all had to go through a competitive process, and these are contractors that we've worked with in the past, and we will have inspectors on site. We have a whole entire team overseeing this program, so we have people that have to sign off on the final completed project. They also have to go through the normal permit requirements as well. So they'll be doing tap card data updates, and also I've found in our pilot programs, which I was a little nervous when we did our pilot. I wasn't sure how contractors would be interacting with homeowners, but they were actually wonderful. I didn't hear any complaints. I actually had people go out of their way to tell me how wonderful the contractor was. I can't totally speak for these contractors. We'll have to see how that goes, but we will be monitoring them as we go, and we'll be out in the field with them. So we've had really good experiences in the past with them. And also, I think they just kind of want to do the next one and the next one and the next one to get the next contract and to get to the next one. The quicker they do this, is the better for them.
We would love to invite you to the Borough President's office to present to our community board so that our homeowners all understand this.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments?
Just a quick one. You mentioned the salary rate of $40,000. How could someone that owns a home, and okay, they may have a salary, but that home is worth $500,000. So what are the numbers? How do you work it out? Because it just doesn't make sense.
You know what I found? I found in the previous pilot program, many of those people are elderly people. And again, that's sort of why I wanted all of your help to advocate for this as well, and to assure people that this was a good program and something to participate in. A lot of the elderly people were really wary of working with us, and sometimes their houses are worth over $1 million, but they're not making that much. They don't have the money to put into repairs to their homes. They definitely don't have $10,000 to spend on a service line. And it's also something that they're like, I've lived here for 75 years. I've made it this far. I don't need to do this. I don't care about my health. But they care about if the service line goes and they don't have the money to replace it. You take for granted turning on your faucet and flushing your toilet every day, but when you don't have it, you really miss it. So I found in our experience in the past that was the case a lot, that it was often people that were elderly.
One more question. Thank you, Madam Deputy. How many homes could you, because since we have a high concentration in our district, how many homes can a contractor do? And so you say it happens in 2 to 3 days?
Yeah.
Can happen at the same time. So that, because the concern is always about the impact on traffic and et cetera, when you dig up and loss of parking spaces. So how many homes will be done couldn't be done at one time?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can find that information for you, but that's also one of the other reasons we did it this way this time around. It's much, much easier to be on one block and try to get everything done all at the same time and move on to the next than to do it piecemeal. So I'll find that out for you.
Any other questions? I had a quick question. For the outreach, will the contractors or the contracting team be conducting these calls in multiple languages or the letters, whatever system?
Yes, I haven't done it yet, but I will actually translate this presentation into Spanish, and if anybody has another language they'd like me to translate it into, I'm happy to. And we'll have handouts and letters in multiple languages. And we also have a system called Voyance, which we can do interpretation services through that, so should anybody need that, we can assist.
That'll be great. Thank you so much. So we look forward to the outcome of the pilot program here in the Bronx. Oh, there's one more question, sorry.
Just a quick question. For any homeowners who didn't fill out the census in 2020, how can they
That's a great
access the
question.
program? Or how do you know if their program may be affected, but they just didn't?
Good question. I don't know. I will look into that as well. Thank you. That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And my contact information is also on here as well. So once you get this presentation, I know all of you know Effie. You know where to find me, so feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thank you,
So much.
everybody.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, DEP, for being present this morning. Again, we look forward to the outcome of the implementation here in the Bronx, and thank you for prioritizing our borough. With that said, we're going to move on to announcements. Any announcements from the public before we go into the Bronx Borough President's announcements? Yes, Anthony.
Thank you, Madam Deputy. Just want to announce that Bronx Community.
Can we wait for the mic?
We can hear it.
No, BronxNet needs
Oh,
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Madam Deputy. Just want to announce that Bronx Community Board is happy to host a discussion today at 6 o'clock at Lincoln Hospital regarding safety in our public housing authority. In our community board, we have one of the highest concentration of public housing, and we're excited to have the chief of the housing bureaus coming to speak at Lincoln Hospital today at 6 o'clock. We invited the general public and all of our NYCHA residents to be able to come and talk about where our public housing safety is today and how we can work together to ensure that the administration is working with the community to ensure that as a priority. And we appreciate anyone who can definitely come out and participate. We also are going to be having on tomorrow, we're going to be meeting with the Commissioner of the Administration for Children's Services to discuss the expansion on Horizon Juvenile Detention Center that's happening. Raise the age has changed that, and so we know that unfortunately, the Juvenile Detention Center is going to be expanded, and so we know that we have folks who want to learn more about what that means for our district, and so we invite folks to also join us at Lincoln Hospital tomorrow. So again, today public housing, tomorrow the expansion of jails, and we hope to have continues of conversations around issues that affect our district. Thank you, Madam Deputy.
thank you so much, Anthony. Both at Lincoln Hospital? All right, wonderful. Thank you so much. Any other announcements? Alrighty, so running through the Bronx Borough President's list of announcements, we have CB application updates from our Director of Community Boards, Kiara.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Deputy. The community board application is live. The deadline to apply and to reapply, if you are a current board member, is Friday, March 1st. I thank all the boards for helping me with outreach, but if you could send out one more push on your social media, your distribution list, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
This morning, we're having a flag raising. We're raising the Dominican flag in celebration of Dominican independence. And so that's happening today at 12 p.m., right after the conclusion of our presentation, in front of the courthouse, followed by a brief program in the rotunda. If folks are interested in joining, please do so. Our fire safety education workshops, they're still ongoing. We want to thank every single participant, from community boards to council members who have joined us in this partnership as we seek to educate our neighbors in fire prevention and safety. If anyone is interested in partnering with our office to host these workshops, please connect with Marisol Halpern, our Director of Borough Operations. So they're still ongoing and very well attended, let me tell you. We are also hosting Prom Day 2024 for the graduating class of 2024 on May 24th. The location is still to be determined, but to that end, we're currently accepting donations of gowns, suits, and any other items to help our students to look their best as they celebrate their great achievements at their prom. So donations will be, the donation drop-off center is here at Borough Hall, 851 Grand Concourse, room 206, and we will be distributing flyers with additional information during the first week of March if anyone is interested in donating. Our Bronx Borough President Higher Education College Fair we're hosting it March 7th at Bronx Community College, and we're going to be highlighting Bronx institutions of higher learning and showcasing their academic support and services. So March 7th is our Higher Education College Fair. Again, we'll share flyers for everyone to distribute. And in closing, our next Borough Board meeting will be hosted and held March 11th. Location is still to be determined, but same time, 10 a.m., March 11th. So we will now close this portion of the Borough Board meeting and move into our public hearing. We urge all members to remain, as this is an opportunity to hear from our nonprofits, colleges, hospitals, neighborhoods, and community organizations as they offer feedback on the mayor's fiscal year 2025 proposed budget, the capital and service, and highlighting the capital and service needs of our borough. So for folks who want to stay, we will be transitioning over. But with that, we close our Borough Board meeting. Thank you so much to our presenters that were here this morning, to the state. Thank you so much to the governor, DP. Thank you so much to the administration. But for our members to please stay behind. Thank you so much. Is this working? Is Betty here? So opening for public hearing pursuant to Section 241 of the City Charter, the Bronx Borough Board will host a public hearing on the mayor's preliminary budget for fiscal year 2025, today, February 26, at 11:04 a.m. At 851 Grand Concourse, room 711. Really quickly, as mentioned, this hearing will provide an opportunity to Bronx and citywide nonprofits, colleges, hospitals, schools, community organizations, and any other parties to offer feedback on the mayor's proposed budget for fiscal year 2025, as well as the capital and service needs of our borough. In anticipation of this hearing, a request for testimony was widely shared and organizations were asked to register to speak. Today, you will hear from them in the order in which they were received. Really quickly, I just want to go over some housekeeping rules. Rule number 1, verbal testimony will be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. A timer will be set for time management. Moving on to rule number 2, only 1 speaker per group. And lastly, questions may be asked by Borough Board members only, in specific the chairs of community boards and city council representatives. We ask that you are brief in the interest of time. And with that, we're going to call the first speaker. Is that right?
Yes.
Aaron Buscup, Vice President from NYBG. Is Aaron present? David Levers, Director of Government Relations and External Affairs for Bronx Community College. Good morning. Welcome.
the timer.
Good morning, everyone. I'm David Levers, Director of Government Relations and Government. What? I'm good. So I'm the Director of Government Relations and External Affairs at Bronx Community College. On behalf of the President, I want to thank the Deputy, the Borough President for their support over the years, and it's good to see everyone this morning. For this year, we're requesting $500,000 from the Borough President. We're going to request an additional $1.5 million from our Council Member, Prina Sanchez, the Bronx delegation, to upgrade our athletic facility, our Ohio track and field. If you have the booklet, you could follow along with me on this. So the request will cover an outdoor control booth, new audiovisual components, new electrical digital scoreboard, new LED lights, and this also helps us with recruitment for our athletic programs and students. I'm pleased to announce that the college is seeing our enrollment grow, and this will be very helpful for retention. And also in the Bronx, there's a lack of athletic fields, so this actually will be open for community use. And if you go along the second page in, you can see what our field currently looks like. And obviously it's not in the best shape, but if you turn to the next page, this is a rendering of what it will look like. So we'll have new branding, a whole new baseball field, soccer field, and we already have the design done, so construction will immediately start. And the total request, again, is $500,000. We're not asking for a lot of money, but this is a very good investment for the college and for the community at large. And again, as you can see through the diagrams, what actually the new projects will be in the field. And then there's further information in terms of our enrollment based on our state senators, city council members, and assembly members. And you can see some of our student athletes in here. And also on the last page is a breakdown of our athletic teams. Again, straightforward. This is for the community benefit and for our students. Does anyone have any questions? Raise your hand if you support it. The delegation, we're going to be requesting jointly between Councilmember Sanchez and the delegation, $1.5 million.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rocky Buchanan. Ana Garcia Reyes. Jasmine Uribe. William Sanford.
Just so you know, the line outside is terrible. No. So that's why maybe the people are delayed. It took me, I came just off for 11 a.m.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, what is it today? It's crazy downstairs.
The event downstairs. Okay, Mrs. Sanford, 3 minutes.
Am I on? Oh, this way. Okay, I just wanted to, my message for the mayor, or I should say Teddy Long, is you need to stop cutting everything. You cut Sunday library service recently. There's no excuse for that. The libraries need baseline funding. Okay, the computers need 4 browsers. Opera, my favorite browser, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, and Google Chrome. If that happens, it'll be easy to finish my work earlier. I don't know what's gotten into, I really don't. I mean, when he ran for office in 2021, he said he wanted to get stuff done. So far, he hasn't gotten anything done. So we have him, Hochul, Trump, and Biden, aka the Mod Squad. I don't know what's going into it. He lived in a shelter at one time, and he adopted a 30 and 60-day rule, shelter rule, which I find humorously funny. You're telling those who enter the shelter they're going to stay for 1 month or 2. Is that how long he stayed when he lived in the shelter? Chances are he was there for over 3 months. So why is he putting a time limit on us? If he's not giving us support of Section 8 housing, which rather officially, if he's not helping us get in public housing, then what's he doing? It appears he's dancing like a rockhead. If he wants to dance like a rockhead, he should wear the outfit. That's if he can fit in it. Okay, he needs to stop cutting everything. That's all I have to say. And just in case you didn't know, 31 years ago today, the first World Trade Center bombing occurred. Subsequently, I was at the NASCAR saying someone I know turned 54. But just the message to Teddy Long is, between now and New Year's Eve 2025, you need to get it together. If you want to seek re-election, you want to get re-elected next year, you need to get it together. You need to stop dancing like a rockhead. You need to stop imitating Pinocchio. You need to stop imitating Nicholas Bratt from Eight Is Enough. You need to stop imitating Weinstein from Welcome Back, Kotter, because that's what you're doing. You know, you tell us one story now, you tell us another story later. You're imitating your predecessors, particularly your actual predecessor who are compatible with Frankenstein Big Bird. That's another story.
Thank you. Eric Radeski. Linda Johnson. Huh? Okay. Where we at? Aaron Bauska.
Okay, we went back. I'm okay. He already spoke. He's not here. Sanford. And then we just went back up.
Good morning.
Here's copies of my written testimony. I'm sorry. In fact, they said we couldn't come in.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Do I have 2 minutes?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, panel. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Borough President and Deputy Borough President Peguero, for this opportunity. My name is Aaron Boschka. I'm the Vice President of Government and Community Relations at New York Botanical Garden. On behalf of NYBG, our Board of Trustees, our staff, and our millions of visitors, we want to thank you for this opportunity to talk to you today. We know and enjoy our historic public-private partnership. One thing that I just want to flag for everybody is that NYBG is proud to have something called the Bronx Neighbors Program. I've left some flyers upstairs. This is any Bronx resident can come at free any day of the week to NYBG. You don't have to show anything. You don't have to prove that you're a Bronx resident. We'll take you at your word for it because we know our fellow Bronxites. Over the next decade, NYBG shall embark on a transformational journey, reimagining our gardens, facilities, and the visitor's experience. Rooted in our enduring legacy and commitment to environmental action, we will develop new sustainable practices by enhancing accessibility, fostering community, and championing environmental stewardship. NYBG aims not only to remain a cherished urban oasis, but a model and a global benchmark for botanical gardens in the 21st century. As part of this plan to showcase climate solutions for garden guests, NYBG shall strive to meet New York City's ambitious 2035 goal of transitioning the entire vehicle fleet to fully electric. To help us reach New York City's goal, we were respectfully asking $300,000 of Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson's capital money to acquire 4 mobile solar vehicle charging units. Mobile solar charging units will help NYBG and the Bronx community address climate change head-on through pioneering innovation in solar charging. As a city and a borough, we need more charging infrastructure to prepare ourselves for an electric fleet. While grid-connected programs are rolling out from DCAS, NYSERDA, and federal sources, the process of identifying sites and connectivity to the grid infrastructure has been slow. As an alternative to this process, NYBG will pilot mobile solar charging units and test their capabilities for powering city-owned vehicles. Several manufacturers are producing mobile solar charging units using a solar array that can be efficiently folded up and moved to different locations. Solar mobile units carry several advantages. They are not connected to the grid and therefore less expensive in capital outlay. Second, solar array may be transported easily on NYBG's grounds or to other areas of the Bronx. Third, there is no additional electricity expense to New York City or the consumer in using solar technology. For all these reasons, NYBG requests $300,000 of capital funding to purchase 4 of these mobile solar charging units to test them and report back to DCAS and other city agencies as a bridge effort to make the city's transition to an entirely electric vehicle fleet possible. We thank you for your time today. And on the back, here's a picture of an example of one that's in Queens that's in currently use. at Mets Field. And we have some permanent ones here in the Bronx at Pelham Bay Park and elsewhere that are being pioneered by DCAS. And so the early results are very positive. But thank you for your opportunity.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you. Any questions? Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can we get the mic?
Hello? Can you, oh, yeah, you can hear me, great. Tariq Israel from Councilmember Stevens' office, how you doing?
Doing well, sir.
Recent owner of an electric vehicle, experiencing all the woes of the infrastructure. Has there been any consideration to what it may look like for Botanical Garden becoming a public charging site for the surrounding community?
I think that's the direction we'd like to head. I think we want to test these and see how they work. We maintain a city park space right outside our gates at the Metro North Park, and whether or not they could be set up there, or if there could be some areas right in the entrance that those could be pioneered and be used for the public, but that's kind of the direction that we want to head. Again, this is for 4 right away to kind of pilot it and see how they go. The outstanding question that I've heard from most people using these units is that it can take 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah, it's 8-hour charge. Yeah.
If it's sunny, right? Like if it's this morning, it's
Yeah.
longer, but, so that's a little bit of the downside.
Yeah, I was just going to say, has there been any consideration to what it may look like to installing a level 2 charging site, which would effectively take maybe the space of the front?
Sure.
But yeah.
In terms of the permanent, like those fast chargers that like the state are doing, we're exploring that right now already.
Okay, awesome.
For public use.
Awesome.
And I think those are a lot faster, right?
Yeah, level 2s take about 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
From an 8 hour.
Mr. McCaney, everything? Okay.
We're good,
Thank you. Thank you.
The next speaker is Eric Radesky.
Thank you. To Borough President Gibson and members of her team, thank you for inviting me here today to speak on behalf of Hostos Community College. My name is Dr. Eric Radesky, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs at Hostos. We kindly request funds in the amount of $464,700 to replace 300 student-facing PCs at an average cost of $1,549 per PC. Our student population has a variety of needs that must be met in order to be successful in college. Many of our students are first in their family to attend college, are ESL learners, and or work 1 or more jobs to support themselves and their families. College is hard enough to complete for someone who does not face these challenges. And that is why we need to replace PCs in student-facing parts of the campus. The areas slated for PC replacement include, but are not inclusive of, the Financial Aid Lab, Testing Labs, the Writing Center, and the Tutoring Center, also known as the Hostos Academic Learning Center. These areas all provide essential services that aid in student retention and success. Our Financial Aid Lab provides students with one-on-one assistance to make sure they apply for and receive all the aid to which they are eligible. We do not want them to leave any money on the table. Our Testing Lab ensures the integrity and placement of testing and makes sure students are placed into the proper classes for their abilities as they enter Hostos. Our Writing Center tutors students in everything from reading, writing, and research to digital literacy and time management. And the Tutoring Center provides an invaluable resource to students, many of whom need to help as they make the jump from high school to college-level coursework. And the new PCs will also be updated with more current and more secure technology. Again, many Hostos students are first in their family to go to college, and these students especially need someone they can go to for the academic help and support that they cannot necessarily get at home. Thank you for your continued support of Hostos Community College. I will now take any questions that you might have.
Questions? Awesome. Thank you so much.
Would you like a copy of the testimony?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Linda Johnson. Arnaldo Lopez.
And the Pregones?
Pregones. I just want to remind everybody, 3 minutes.
Thank you so much. Good morning. My name is Arnaldo Lopez, and I am Managing Director with Pregones Puerto Rican Traveling Theater, not far from this location and one of the anchor cultural facilities of the South Bronx. Pregones respectfully requests consideration for capital funding allocation of $1 million for Bronx from the borough president towards the construction and the meeting of shortfall for the new Pregones headquarters and education center at 571 Walton Avenue. This is a project that has been multiple rounds of fundraising here in the city and that I believe plays a very important role in the continued development of the South Bronx as a citywide destination for arts and culture. Managed by the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the Department of Design and Construction, our project was initially planned for a modest 3,500 square foot and is now envisioned as a more appropriate and comfortable 7,500 square foot facility this would cover the entire required interior work and exterior work and parking stalls on that block that we occupy on Walton Avenue. The front-end planning process for this project is now looking at 50% shortfall. So we have been funded at $11 million, and the project will cost $23 million. This is a significant ask, but it also comes at a really important timing for the development of cultural facilities in the South Bronx as we see accelerated development and the activation of many new residential units at Market. The new facility will highlight art-centered value and destination appeal to our Mott Haven neighborhood, expanding the number and kind of arts cultural events and learning opportunities available to a borough-wide and citywide public. The building will house arts education programs for youth, adults, and older adults, digital recording and production studios, and administrative offices for the entire Pregones Puerto Rican traveling operation, which programs in the Bronx and in Manhattan. Fiscal year capital funding from the Bronx Borough President is critical to our success. We do believe that this is the kind of project that brings in many times the amount of investment by the way of economic activity. So we're grateful for the opportunity and open to questions. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker would be Shirley Solomon, the Bronx Museum of the Arts. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Shirley Solomon. I'm the Deputy Director of the Bronx Museum of the Arts, and thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. I'm speaking today to respectfully request $500,000 from the Bronx Borough President in the FY25 budget to support critical needs of our South Wing atrium renovation project and address increased construction contingency. Our $32 million city-funded project is overseen by the Economic Development Corporation on behalf of the Department of Cultural Affairs and the Bronx Museum. Abatement and interior work commenced in November. Exterior demolition will begin later this spring, followed by construction, which is slated to be completed in 2025. Our South Wing is a former synagogue building built in 1962 and renovated in the 1980s. It is anchored on the corner of Grand Concourse and 165th Street. The South Wing renovation will create a new prominent entrance near the Grand Concourse corner, leading to a multi-story lobby project space with programming visible from the street. It will transform administrative and storage areas into program spaces, provide a cafe space and coat check, improve ADA accessibility, open visitor circulation between our south and north wings, and electrify rooftop units and connect our building systems. And a new bronze roof and a facade will unify our campus. This work will boost community access to our arts programming, which are open to all as we offer free admission. Our $500,000 request will support the replacement and upgrade of our south wing roof and a larger construction contingency to address unforeseen conditions that have emerged in our 62-year-old building. We are also requesting $2 million from the City Council and $2 million in the executive budget to meet a estimated $36.9 million budget for this project. I would also like to use the opportunity to urge the city to invest in culture in the FY25 executive budget by restoring a baseline funding for the Department of Cultural Affairs. We joined the Culture Committee to request restoration of our current and out-year PEG cuts to the CIGs and the cultural groups totaling $35.6 million. And we also request a restoration and baselining of $45 million to the Department of Cultural Affairs to fund the cultural institutions group and program groups in 2025. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Ray Sanchez from Police Athletic League. Ray.
Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. I'm especially chipper because I spent 7 years in this beautiful building, and it's great to see so many old, familiar friends and faces here at 851 Grand Concourse. My name is Ray Sanchez. I'm here on behalf of the Police Athletic League. I will read into the record excerpt from a letter from our Executive Director, Carlos Velasquez, regarding the West Virginia Owned Center here in the Bronx. Dear Borough President Gibson and Councilmember Salamanca, Chair of the Bronx Delegation, the Police Athletic League, PAL, is a large youth development organization that operates centers throughout the 5 boroughs. PAL has deep roots in the Fordham-Tremont community, having operated a community center for young people ages 5 through 19, the West Virginia Owned Center, since 1973. Over 600 youth attended programs at the center last year. Offerings include after-school programs, summer day camp, teen center, summer youth employment, open gym, cops and kids sports, intramural sports leagues, and Saturday Night Lights, sports training, scrimmages, and more. Programming provides educational, recreational, arts, and social, emotional learning activities led by caring adults and mentors. Teenagers receive assistance from employment preparation, post-secondary education, transition to adulthood, and take part in career exploration, including internships and summer job placement. Given the 50 years at this site, the Webster Center requires urgent physical plant upgrades, repairs and improvements. It needs an emergency HVAC installation and roof repair, as well as safety upgrades to the gymnasium and stage area. The Webster Center is owned by the City of New York. The HVAC and roof alone will cost about $6.6 million, as estimated by the New York City Department of Design and Construction. And we provided the budget attached within. We request that Borough President Gibson and the Bronx delegation of the New York City Council provide $2.5 million towards the cost of the HVAC and roof replacements. We also request consideration of the other safety and physical plant upgrades needed at the site. Thank you very much.
Question.
Oh, yes, questions. By all means.
Hi, I'm Cardenas, Chief of Staff to Councilmember Piedina Sanchez. Is it only that PAL or is it also the PAL on Webster?
This is for the PAL Center at Webster Avenue.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that part. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Wonderful.
Who do we have left? We have Mr. Chris Mastromano from Health and Hospitals. There's a few of them. He's from Health and Hospitals.
Jacoby and
He does
Jacoby and
Central.
CB, yeah.
Does Lincoln.
Good morning. I'm Chris Mastromano. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Jacoby and North Central Bronx Hospital. We've submitted several $1 million worth of requests to the Bronx Borough President and the Bronx delegation, all on infrastructure of both for Jacoby and North Central Bronx. So, for example, for Jacoby, we're looking to enhance security upgrades into the building. In 2022, Jacoby had a shooting in its emergency room. And since then, bringing issues to hospitals such as that, we want to move towards a more safer environment, not only for staff, for patients, and for visitors. At North Central Bronx, as the needs of the community and the health needs has increased, we've asked for $4 million, one to upgrade and replace a brand-new second CAT scanner so we can become state-of-the-art. The second one is to upgrade the paging system within the building. It is old from the 1970s and 80s, very difficult to communicate with our physicians and our nurses, and this will give us that chance. And a final ask for North Central Bronx, of course, is equipment. We want to upgrade our urology ultrasound equipment that the residents of that community can have state-of-the-art care, diagnoses, and we can refer them or treat them as appropriate. Are there any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, thank you.
I think that's the last one of our speakers. Did you register? Did you register? Sure, but what's your name? Sure.
Deborah Myers.
Thank you for that.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Deborah Myers, a community resident in the 16th Council District. I'm near the Bronx Care Hospital. I would like to make a request on behalf of the youth in the borough of the Bronx. During the summertime and even during the evening and weekends, our children have nowhere to go. Basically, left alone at home, trying to go into Claremont Park, which is filthy most of the times, and they don't have decent places. They don't have a safe recreational and educational environment in which to go to and feel safe, feel welcomed. They're now going into gangs, and we have a lot of new migrants coming into the country, and they need help also with their children. And we need now, in this borough of the Bronx, to start opening up our churches, our schools, even the daycares, when you can even open them up a little earlier for people to get to work who are due at work at 8 o'clock, at 8 a.m. in the morning. They don't have accessible daycare in order to bring their children to early mornings. We need to start looking at our foundation, which is our young people in the borough of the Bronx. I'm very concerned about that because when they don't have supervised recreational and educational experiences with being taught by adults who care, then they start losing hope. And why are we here? They lose a lot of hope, and then they don't know which direction they want to go. So the gangs are out there to lead them into the gang violence. And I'm standing here because now I'm a grandmother. I raised my children here in the Bronx, all right? Most of them have been successful, my children. But now I'm looking at the grandchildren, I'm looking at my neighbors' young grandchildren growing up, and they're sitting in the house on their tablets all day long, and that's just not right. And I know that we all need funds, but the foundation is our youth, our young people, and our babies. And I need our borough president, Vanessa Gibson, to allocate funding into the houses of worship where these children can use those fellowship halls. There are churches that have gyms that attach to them, that's in their facilities, and we need to open them up. We need to open them up in the summer where they can provide breakfast and lunches to the children, and even if it's just a little bit of money. A lot of the members of those churches don't want a salary. They'll volunteer some of their time. We can get the SYEP workers to go in and help them to supervise those children. We can provide the arts and crafts. We can provide sports. We can provide a few buses to take these children out of the Bronx to Rye Playland, to some places upstate, the state parks, and let them enjoy the fresh air. All right, I appreciate it, so why don't she take 1 million of that budget and start allocating it around the borough of the Bronx, into the houses of worship, into the youth centers.
Myers, the
Thank
3
you
minutes
very
are up.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes our public hearing. Thank you all for sharing your concerns and needs with our office. These will be taken into consideration as we continue the budget process. The next step is the creation of a budget priorities report. Please note that the testimonies presented here today, along with the top 10 capital requests and top 5 expense requests made by the community boards, will be included in our Borough Board Priority Report. This report will be shared in advance of our next meeting with our board members on March 11th, where it will be voted on prior to submission to the mayor's office. So for the board members, look out for that report. It should be sent to you in advance of that meeting. Again, thank you all for staying and for being here. Our next meeting of the Borough Service Cabinet is March 6th, and our next meeting of the Borough Board, as I've mentioned, is March 11th. So I thank you very much for your time.